Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. Her skin was as white as snow, her lips as red as blood, and her hair as black as ebony. Snow White's beauty was unmatched, but her kind heart and gentle spirit made her even more beloved by all who knew her. Snow White lived with her wicked stepmother, the queen, who was consumed with jealousy over Snow White's beauty. Every day, the queen would consult her magical mirror, asking, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And each day, the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." But one fateful day, the mirror gave a different answer. "Snow White is the fairest of them all." Enraged, the queen devised a plan to rid herself of Snow White forever. She summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. As proof, she demanded the huntsman bring back Snow White's heart. The huntsman, however, could not bring himself to harm Snow White. Instead, he told her of the queen's wicked plan and urged her to flee into the forest. Snow White, frightened and alone, ran deep into the woods, tears streaming down her face. As night fell, Snow White stumbled upon a quaint little cottage. Exhausted, she knocked on the door, but no one answered. She let herself in and found the place empty, but charmingly tidy. There were 7 tiny chairs and 7 tiny beds. Snow White, feeling safe at last, fell asleep across 3 of the tiny beds. Soon after, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage returned from their work in the mines. They were shocked to find Snow White asleep in their home, but they were also delighted by her presence. When Snow White awoke and explained her plight, the dwarfs, Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey, offered her shelter. Days turned into weeks, and Snow White's life with the dwarfs was filled with joy and laughter. She took care of their home, cooked delicious meals, and sang beautiful songs that made the forest come alive with harmony. Meanwhile, the queen, believing Snow White was dead, once again asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" To her shock, the mirror replied, "Snow White, who dwells with the 7 dwarfs, is the fairest of them all." The queen, furious, decided to take matters into her own hands. Disguised as an old peddler woman, the queen visited the dwarfs' cottage while they were away. She offered Snow White a shiny, red apple. Unaware of the danger, Snow White took a bite, and the moment the apple touched her lips, she fell into a deep, enchanted sleep. The queen cackled with glee, believing she had finally triumphed. When the dwarfs returned home, they were heartbroken to find Snow White seemingly lifeless. They built a glass coffin and placed her inside, unable to bury her because of her undying beauty. They kept watch over her day and night. One day, a handsome prince who had heard tales of Snow White's beauty and kindness arrived at the dwarf's cottage. Overcome by her beauty, he kissed her gently. Miraculously, the enchantment was broken, and Snow White awoke. The dwarfs and the prince rejoiced, and Snow White, overjoyed, embraced her new friends. The prince asked Snow White to return to his kingdom with him, and she agreed. They invited the dwarfs to live with them in the palace, where they would always be welcome. The wicked queen, upon learning of Snow White's revival, fled the kingdom in disgrace, never to be seen again. And so, Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after, surrounded by friends and filled with love and laughter. The kingdom rejoiced, for kindness and goodness had triumphed over evil once more. The end. Thank you for joining us in Snow White. Stay tuned for more magical adventures and tales of bravery, wisdom, and wonder.